All right, welcome back to Math is Easy. Step by step, I'd like to go over the last answers that I had introduced in video number 1 in finding all the zeros of the function. Now, the function of x equals 3x squared minus x plus 1. Boy, I created a doozy problem when I created this one, but I wanted you to see what you do when you can't understand. There's no greatest common factor. I can't factor by grouping. I can't factor the quadratic. It's not a perfect trinomial. It's not a perfect square. Excuse me. It's not a trinomial. What do I do? Well, remember I introduced to you the quadratic formula, where you would set f of x equal to 0, and you'd have the a, b, and c values. That's what you do. And I created a problem that's going to be pretty complicated at the end. I'll do my best to explain it, but since I introduced it long ago, and I want to show you how to use that quadratic formula for a quadratic equation, I'm going to stick to my guns and I'm just going to do it. So the first thing we need to recognize, in order to set up your A, B, C values, right, like we did here, you have to set this equation equal to 0. Now I can label my A value 3, my B value, that invisible -1, and my C value +1. Simply going to substitute it into the quadratic formula. And remember, because I set this equal to 0, my final two values, right? We have this to the power of 2. That means there'll be two zeros of the function for this answer. It will already be the answer to the question of finding the zeros. I don't need to solve for x. It'll already be solved in 0 form. So let's just get started. Everywhere you see a b, I'm going to substitute a -1. Everywhere you see an a, I'm going to substitute a 3. And everywhere you see a c, I'm going to substitute a 1. Follow the order of operations, parentheses first, then exponents, multiply, dividing, and then adding and subtracting. Boy, if I can get my tongue out of the way, I will be dangerous. So again, 3 is my A, -1 is my B, and +1 is my C values. You see them here. So one at a time, I'm just going to get started and show you step by step what we're going to do. So here I've substituted all of the values, my A, my B, and my C values. I'm going to simplify inside the radical first. -1 squared is -1 times -1. Then I'm going to multiply -4 times 3, and then a negative 12 times a +1. Again, -1 times -1 is a +1. And for those of you that know your math, you can maybe see why the equation I started with and created isn't the very best equation. Of course, I have a -1 on the outside of these parentheses. It's invisible. -1 times a -1 is a +1. And of course, 2 times 3 is 6. So let me go through and show you that step by step. Of course, here is the -1 squared, -1 times -1. I'm showing you that invisible one on the outside of those parentheses there. Never forget, anytime you have a radical, it's always plus or minus. And so I'm showing you that as well. Continuing on, if I'm going too fast, please stop, pause, rewind. And if you find any mistakes, please communicate with me. Get a hold of me and let me know where you see the mistakes. Mistakes are golden. They're the golden road to knowledge because you learn from your mistakes. Never be afraid to make a mistake. All right, so let's continue on. -1 times -1 is a +1. All right, -4 times a +3 is -12. And I'm going to multiply all of those terms before I move on. I've got my plus minus, -1 times -1 rewritten, and my 2 times 3 rewritten. Going to simplify inside the radical and explain this negative value inside the radical the best that I can. For many of you, this will be a new concept. And so I'm not expecting you to see a problem this difficult on any of your standardized assessments. None that I'm going to create anyway. So moving forward, let's go ahead and do a little more simplification. 1 times negative 12 times 1 is a negative 12. And then a negative 1 times a negative 1. And 2 times 3. I will simplify in the next steps. Let me go ahead and move this up forward. And so let's just get right into it and do that now. Negative 1 times a negative 1 is a positive 1. Plus and minus the square root of a negative 12. 2 times 3 is 6. Now I want to explain this negative inside the radical. This is a imaginary, irrational term, right? But it has to do with the coordinate x and y coordinate points and the 4 quadrants on a graph. I'm not going to get into detail, but this negative inside the radical is not allowed. However, you can substitute that negative inside the radical with an I. It's called an imaginary number, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to pull that negative out. I'm going to show the I for imaginary number, and that 12 simplifies to 2 times 2, which is 4, times 3. So I can pull one value of 2 out. Since this is a square root and I got 2 values, I can pull 1 out. It's going to be 1 plus and minus 2i times the square root of 3, all divided by 6. And I'm showing you that here. Now, since it's plus and minus, right, that means 1 plus 2 times I, that's imaginary number, times the square root of 3 divided by 6, and 1 minus 2 times I times the square root of 3 divided by 6. So I'm going to show you both of these values here. I introduced this problem. I made it up. I created all of my problems. I create from scratch. And I did not check my answers when I created this problem. But it wouldn't be fair to you or anybody else following along if I just didn't do this problem, because I introduced it in video 1. So the two zeros of this function are 1 plus 2 times I times the square root of 3 divided by 6, and 1 minus 2 times I times the square root of 3 divided by 6. These two factors are my zeros of the function 3x squared minus x plus 1. Woo. Trust me, math is easy. Take it step by step. I apologize if this was confusing, but I wanted to complete this problem and show you how to use the quadratic formula in order to factor. Thank you for joining me. Math is easy. Take it step by step. If I've helped you, please help me. Thank you.